welcome back to the channel, everybody. In this video, I'm going to show you how to very quickly set a post with column cap, set the column base, drill it into the concrete. We're going to set these beams, show you how to lay out so that you can pre-install your joist hangers. Then we're going to set that beam, and then we're going to do the same thing in the grate room. This is the brand new Stabila LAX600g multi-line laser, and it's rechargeable. Okay, 1/4 inch to the back there. And that guy is like perfect. Good Lord, that's awesome. I think if I just tap. My plan was to use the little unit and line up the laser with the columns on each side. That way I can locate where I need to drill the column base. that was so easy. That was so easy. Look at that, 1/8 of an inch. Okay, let's just show this. Okay, so here's the little unit. Look at that, right on the money. This side is about 1/8. Yeah, that made it easy, right? It helps with a visible green line. And you can see for yourself that that was plenty visible. Once it gets lighter out, then I would need to either use another set of eyes or a detector. But first thing in the morning, that was pretty awesome. Nice and quick. Now what I need to do is locate exactly where the column goes so that I can drill and put in this Simpson Strong Tie ABU 6.6. 221/12. I'm going to cheat this guy to line up with the control joint. It definitely does not need to line up with the control joint, but sliding it 1/4 of an inch to make it line up with the control joint, well, then that just makes it look like we did this all on purpose. I'm going to center 2 3/4 and mark 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. And I was to the back side of my beam. Okay. These brackets are super easy to use. They come with a washer. They stand the column 1 inch off of the concrete. And you see they're attached to my impact wrench. I've got the Dude Tools deep socket. You saw that in a previous video. That's why we use everything 5/8, and then a 5/8 Titan bolt. Now that DeWalt roto hammer did die on this job. And I can't find a shorter bit, so I took the vacuum off because, well, it doesn't do any good. That Titan's only, what, 4 inches? And I've got like 6 inches of bit hanging out. So instead what I do, and again, this comes down to permissible exposure limits, with the fan going, I'm not going to be breathing any of this dust. Nobody else is on the job site. Ideally, we want vacuums. So I just need to find my, what is that, a 5/8 Diablo bit. For me, those are the best bits I've ever used. That's all we buy now. Buy them from Home Depot. I just need to get a short one, like maybe an 8 inch. Just before it tightens down, of course, line up the bracket. Remember, you want to center the bracket on your column. I think it's actually 5 inches. So you don't want to hold the back to your line, but you want to center those tabs on the side to where your column is going to be. Out comes the same little Stabila unit because one of the multi-lines shoots level. Yeah, I can see that. Now, I thought I was going to need my detector. I did not. Okay, bottom of column is 70 and 9. 70. That is 70 and 9/16. I was taught to call out 16ths. I'm not going to say that it's the best way, but it works well for us. 70 and 8. 70 and 8. Okay, 38 and a half. 38 and a half. I have learned over the years, write it in Sharpie on the bracket because it's easy to forget things. Now that's the number coming up to the laser, and I already have the number coming down to the laser, so you guessed it. Let's add those two numbers together, and now we know our column height. And 1/2, 109. 109. Our engineer called out these big Simpson strong tie CCQ, whatever they are. You can look it up. Because of the welds on those tabs to the bucket, it's nice to ease the edges. And again, I was taught this. I remember I was 16 years old because I could drive, and it was my first summer framing a house with my mentor, Dave, and he taught me how to do this. What's great about these cordless saws is that they all have blade brakes. So as soon as you let off the trigger, the blade stops. I didn't need to ease all four sides, but so that I didn't need to keep track of rolling the column, the 6x6 there, I just eased all four sides. Now it's just a matter of centering those tabs on the 6x6 and then using the included screws to fasten it. Have I ever said how much I love the fact that a lot of our hardware uses screws now, and it's all engineered into the system? So for those that think that screws are weaker, they could be, but they're not when they're made with a high strength metal. I always put in one, then I make sure that those tabs are centered, and then I put in one more, and then go ahead and just finish it, and then I can flip it over. Because I eased the corners of that 6x6, now that bracket or that bucket sits nice and tight to the 6x6. Now you might have noticed that I have not cut anything to length yet. This is my standard practice. Now I can hook the bucket and then run out my measurement. No math needed. I find this just to be more accurate than figuring a quarter, 5/16 or 3/8 for the bucket. Come on now. Easy, easy. 109 from the bucket. If you've watched enough videos on this channel, you know that we try to remove human error as much as possible. And the reason for that is because I am a human who makes lots of errors. Way, way too often. By hooking the bucket and coming out to my square, you want to keep your tape parallel to that column, that 6x6. Then I can be assured that the height from where the beam sits in the bucket to the bottom of that post where it sits in the column base that I drilled into the concrete and attached, that's exactly the number that we shot and added up with the laser. Other people can do it differently. That's just the way I do it, and I pretty much can't make a mistake as long as I mark out the right number. Now it's time to set the column with the column cap attached into the column base, which is attached to the concrete. So I pre-staged my positive placement nailer. That's a Beck America nailer. I can center the column base on the 6x6 and put one nail because I still need to plumb the post. But by putting one nail, I can be hands-free. Again, because I'm alone, I'm going to go ahead and brace the column, but first I'm going to put a couple of screws partly driven into the 6x6 because that's going to hold the top of my brace. I like to use the Simpson strong tie framing screws for my braces because they're super easy to install, super easy to remove. They're easy on the body. I don't have to like yank nails out, and I don't have to cut off the ends of my boards. By putting one part way, see it's holding it up at the column. I want to attach my brace at the bottom first Can you guess why? Let me show you. I'm going to pre-start the screw. Have any of you ever done this by yourself, where you're trying to drive a nail by hammer and then you miss, and it ends up with the post out of plumb? Or it just becomes a hassle. This is just a nice, simple, easy way to get a good result. Now I can hold the level and I can move the post. Because that screw's partially driven, when I drive it home, I'm not like wailing on and missing the brace or hitting the 6x6. Anyway, you know, you can see. Nice and easy. You will get more done by pre-planning your steps than by trying to go fast. At least that's what I tell myself. Same thing on the other side. I'm going to pre-start a screw, grab my brace. I'm going to go attach it at the bottom on the other end. Notice that my brace runs to the back. That's because we're going to set the beam from the front, and I want to keep that walkway clear. Yeah, let's pull that. I didn't like it? Easy. I'll pop the screw, but first I'm going to start a new screw because I don't want it to find the same hole. Start a new screw, pull out the existing one. Now I'm going to replumb it, drive it home. Much easier than having to pull a nail. In my view, everybody can do things their own way. Like I say, it's not the wrong way, it's not the right way, it's just the way I do it, and I feel like it's a whole lot easier and I get a good result. Not too bad, not too bad, not too bad at all. Once the beams are actually set, we're still going to eyeball or string line them straight, and so it's possible that I might have to pop those braces and move it so it's straight at the top, and then tap the bottom until it's plumb, and that's why there's only one nail in the base. Okay, so here's our beam. This is a 5.5 by 15 by roughly 19 foot, and it corresponds to that wing wall right next to the cage on the forklift. So you remember from the previous video, this beam's going to go across, and then we're going to have floor system that cantilevers over that garage header, and that's why that garage header is so beefy. All right, dude, I am definitely good enough to do this.
Okay. You're going...
Oh, I had it. Oh, you know, so I did it first try, and then I turned the cameras on, and you know what that means?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
I don't know.
It means it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Oh.
Look at that. I actually snaked it underneath it last time.
That's what I thought you were going to try and do.
Okay, 221.12. Boy, that is exactly what I had below. 221.12. It should be the same number as below, but I always double check. Twice. This guy is not yet straight, so I'm going to wait on it. I snuck it underneath there.
You got it.
I'm going to get it. Look at that control. I'm going to blow it.
Go fast.
Oh! Come on.
Oh!
Look at that. Are you impressed? Come on, that's impressive. You know what's impressive is those are Milwaukee wide blade tapes. I buy them at Home Depot. They just have a consistent standout without the end of the tape rolling over. And I found, that was what, 220? What is that? Somebody else can do the math. 240 is 20 foot. 19 foot something? So that's pretty good. Now the standout isn't 19 foot something. It's where you hold it with your hand. It is about body positioning. Okay, because that far wall is that's where all of my stud and joist layout and rafter layout starts from. What I'm doing is I'm measuring from the outside of that mud sill to this wall, because this wall is where my beam is going to go, the beam that we just put on the sawhorses. Once I have that number, I can then use my tape and burn that same number. Then I can mark like whatever an increment of 2 foot is. 26 foot, 30 foot, whatever it is. I can mark that's the center of a joist, center of a stud, center of a rafter, and then my joists are 2 5/16, so I'll just mark 1 1/8 back. While I'm at it, I might as well just measure the whole house because I know my beam number. I can do the math and subtract and get the upper beam number. That wall's not yet braced straight. Then of course I'm gonna cut it like a quarter short just to give myself some slop. So that's how you can go ahead and get your beam laid out without actually knowing what your layout is on top of the walls. I mean, we know what it is, it's just that we haven't actually done it. Now I'm gonna cut both sides of this beam. I always order the beams, engineered wood, 1 foot long. That way, if there's an ugly cut on one end, well, that's okay. I can make that ugly cut pretty. So that's what I'm doing on this end. Then I'm gonna pull that, whatever that number was that I wrote in the column, etc., etc. You get the point now, don't you? Yep, having just a little bit of trouble. I don't really care for the blade that ships with this saw. I love the Makita saw, but not too long after this, we swapped it out for a Diablo blade, which has been our beam saw blade of choice since, I don't know. But yeah, Bigfoot blades are really good too. Okay, now that we're nice and smooth on this side, I'm gonna measure it to length and cut it square, snap, rinse, repeat. Is that what they say? By keeping the beam vertical, I can make all of my cuts vertically, which means no flipping over of the beam. The beam's heavy, so why would we do that? Oh, and by the way, did you notice kind of the glue joint on the end of that? Even though I ordered the beam a foot long, they gave it to me even longer because it was the end of their beam. They're manufactured, I believe, in 60-foot lengths and cut down from there. So oftentimes you get extra, and so we save those beam chunks because they can be good steps in and out of the house, or they can go under the outriggers on the forks. And then at the end of the job, they're usually trashed, and so that's when they go away. Of a joist, center, 26 foot. I'm gonna go 1 1/8. I'll go 1 3. No, 1 2. 2 5. The other advantage of having the beam already vertical is that I can lay out both sides of the beam. Then I'm going to pre-attach the hangers. Besides joists that go toward the back of the house, I have some joists that go toward the front of the house. I also have a beam that goes toward the front of the house and a beam that goes to the back of the house that's going to catch a point load. So you got to lay out all of that. Nice and easy to do because I can hook the top of my beam. So 2 foot plus 2 5/16, 4 foot, 2 5/16, 6 foot, 2 5, 8 foot, 2 5, 10 foot, 2 5. That's actually it. That's the beam. After that, just a moment. The leading edge is just a hair off. Man, that's so annoying. On the back side. Front side doesn't matter. Back side. I'm gonna shift this guy. So the beam goes to the front. And on the back side. Do that. Almost ready for you, dog. Okay, so actually that goes to the back side. No, the front, big beam. Okay, I am really tempted. I guess that leaves enough room for insulation. I'm gonna have you doing the joist hangers again.
Okay.
It's just so much easier. I'm not sure why I laid the beam down. There was a reason, but I don't remember what it was. I actually prefer to keep the beam vertical to nail off all my hangers. I will show you how to do that accurately in just a moment. You notice that they're all nailed to the top? These hangers are specially designed to eliminate the need for web stiffeners, but I will show you that in just a moment. And now the beam goes up. Couple things to notice. One, obviously we're setting this beam into the beam pocket and the column cap. Second, the other beam that's going to join it from its end and go out to that garage wall on the right, it is already cut to length with all the hangers on it, laying there on the sawhorses ready to rig and pick and set. (2021). This is the beam that goes on the left-hand side of the house and will sit under the great room and kitchen and over those two rooms on the left. This was actually the night before. 202/116. Probably still get it wrong. Okay. Well, yeah, probably will. 2 foot is center. Let's say minus inch and 2. So here's my joist hangers. They're 2 5/16. Foot, 2 5/16. 2 foot, 2 5/16. 2 foot, 2 5. 8 foot. Go around the fork. 2 5. You'll notice that I did not tack a nail to hook. If you want to do that, that's fine. But I can press on my tape, extend it, press on my tape, and I'll end up with layout right on the money. Everybody should learn how to develop this skill because it does save you some time. Whenever I post this and installing hangers on the beam before we set it, I always get a bunch of people who very snarkily say, "Oh, you must not be interested in having your joists all at the same height." Now, granted, the written word does not show that level of snark, but I can tell. So anyway, it's not difficult to install top flange hangers properly to guarantee that the heights are the same, especially when it's eye joists. These are Roseburg eye joists. So I already know that they're uniform because they're on site and I can measure them. But what about if it's sawn lumber? Same thing, measure them and average it. It's okay if it's plus or minus an eighth. If your lumber pile is really, really bad, well, that's a different animal. Even then, I would find a way to average them. What we want to do, well, I'll just explain it here in just a moment. Huh? If you want to look on that side, yeah. If you want, I can have you do the other side of this. I'll just show you the way I do it. So the thing is with these hangers, Noah, is like the depth corresponds to the eye joist. Nice. You're gonna skewer yourself right through the chin. So I always do one side. In fact, if you want, just take the stand, come over here and touch the back. If I'm gonna explain it, I might as well explain it to you, eh? Yeah, that's fine. So I'll do this one. So the whole point is this seat is just a hair bigger than the eye joist. So we need that to be parallel. If it's too tight, we can't get them in. And if it's too wide, then the joist is too tall. So how I do it is I make sure that that's nice and snug. And then I come over to this side and I make it parallel. See how it's open? Just a hair. Watch your fingers. I need to reload. Come on now. Triangle holes are optional. I'm gonna go parallel. Okay, so the catalog calls for 2.5-inch nails, but here is what is so slick about the Roseburg eye joist layout. They've calculated the loads on that particular joist or series of joists, and on the layout, it tells you what size nail to use. I could actually use 1.5-inch nails if I had read the eye joist layout soon enough, in more detail. I'm just used to nailing all these with 2.5s, because that's what the catalog, I actually think the catalog shows a deeper nail, but you can substitute the 2.5, and now I know I could have used 1.5s. What's the advantage of that? If I make a mistake, it's a lot easier to pull an 1.5-inch nail. It's all about the rhythm. Also, it's all about the bass. It's all about the rhythm because it's sequential, which means you have to pull the trigger every time. And so timing as you press down and pull the trigger, well, as you can see, sometimes my timing's just not that great. Other times it's really awesome, but that's usually when the camera's off.
Okay, so if you grab hangers, you'll just go from the back side. Sometimes it's, in fact, maybe I'll do one just to show it a different way, and then you decide which way you want to do it. The other way to do it is, see how that pushes it nice, and then you can eyeball parallel. Let me do one more. That way I've got it as an option on camera. Then I'll connect up my mesh port thing. So I'm gonna go right on the tab. Parallel. All right. So that's it. I'm gonna watch you just in case it's wrong. We could adjust that depth. And the reason I say that is, like, I've done this wrong so many times.
What? I swear I counted.
You need uno mas? Okay, Noah, say beer me.
Bear me.
You're too young, man.
I mean, juice me.
Yeah, good one. Dude, I think they're honking at you, man.
Honestly. So like.
Yep, so what I do is I just look at this side first. And so if your hand is here, then you can kind of squeeze. So I squeeze and I get that good, and then when you shoot here, it's gonna pull nice and tight. So 1, 2, 3, and then you can move your hand.
Noah got it figured out, mastered it, and then they were all wrong and we had to pull them. Just kidding. He nailed it. They all worked out great. Well, nailed it, literally. He nailed it. Hey, it's early. I've been up since 3:30 working on this, so it's way too early for accidental puns. Now, you see, with just a little bit of training, demonstrate it, let him do a couple. Now he's gonna learn how to use the nailer. He's gonna learn how to use his hand to kind of adjust things to the line. Hammer as needed. Maybe we still need to adjust the depth. Kind of depends. Sometimes the density, you know, you get closer to a knot. These are all Doug fir glue lambs. Anyway, you guys get the point. Can I just make the following comment? Train. Now I was able to go get a drink of water. I needed to connect up to an electronic device so we could communicate as we set the beam. So while he's finishing this, I can start prepping for the beam lift. All because he's a smart guy and we took the time to train him. And by extension, we got some content for YouTube as well. And here is the footage of the beam lift. This time we did not rig it, we just left it on the forks because we had easy access. But here's one thing I do want to say. Same thing on the training. What I've told Noah is, I want him to make his goal to be the best operator on the site. Now, even though I have 20 plus years more experience in a forklift than he does, isn't that a good goal? So what I told him is, you know where it needs to go. I'm gonna stay out of the way and just make sure like nothing imminently bad is going to happen. But I want you to position the whole thing by yourself and see if you can't set it by yourself. And then if I need to help you a little bit, I will. But as you'll notice, I don't do any signaling. And he's able to get this thing in place. Right at the very end, you know, when he's not able to see that well, and we just need to drop it in, that's the only time I actually communicated with him. The rest of it, I just stayed out of the way and let him do it. By doing that, you empower them, whoever the new person is. They then get a sense of ownership for their job, the particular task, whatever it is. They earn your confidence. Now, you don't just walk away. You have to be there, right? You got to supervise. things can go bad, and inexperienced people don't know what can go bad. But if we train them, we commend them, and we correct where needed, do all of that at the beginning, and then you end up with a good operator that you can trust. And that is worth its weight in gold. My brother worked with us when the market was slow back in 2009, 2010. And he told me, he's like, I thought you were a little too hard on me at first because I was pretty particular. I'm like, no, do it exactly the way I'm telling you to do it. My brother's a really good operator. And even though he doesn't do it very often, if I need him to come out and do it like an extra set of hands, I have total confidence in his skills in the operator's seat. So take the time, empower those that you're training, commend them, and make it a game. Let's see who can be the best, because we all win. And on that note, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. In the next video, we're going to start actually setting the joists themselves, and that is a long video. So I look forward to it. We will see you in the next video. Oh, and hit that like and subscribe button. It really actually helps. More than you could, well, maybe not more than you could know, but it helps more than I ever knew.